DW Africa Link.
338 websites seized in one sweep by Microsoft and US authorities. Behind them, a shadowy network of cybercriminals linked to Nigeria, exploiting the digital space to scam, steal, and sabotage. Once again, the world is pointing fingers and Nigeria's name is dragged into the headlines. But here is the question. Is Nigeria doing enough to combat this cybercrime menace tied to its citizens? Or are we stuck in a cycle where global crackdowns expose the weaknesses we refuse to fix at home? This is not just about reputation. It's about trust, security, and the future of a country whose brightest minds should be courting innovation, not fraud. So is Nigeria winning the cyber war or losing it before it even begins? That's what's coming up. Stay tuned. My name is Josephine Mahachi. Welcome to Africa Link, the podcast that connects you to the stories that matter from and on Africa.
Africa Link, every weekday here on DW.
Nigeria is once again grappling with the shadow of its global reputation as a breeding ground for cybercriminal activity. In a striking development, Microsoft announced the takedown of 338 websites linked to a Nigerian-based service called Raccoon 0365. This platform wasn't just another small-time scheme. It gave users the tools to launch massive phishing campaigns, flooding inboxes with fraudulent emails designed to deceive unsuspecting victims. The damage. At least 5,000 Microsoft user credentials stolen. Phishing, one of the most pervasive forms of cybercrime, relies on impersonating trusted institutions to trick people into surrendering sensitive data like passwords and bank details. Since its emergence in July 2024, Raccoon 0365 has already churned out more than 100,000 US dollars. That's about 84,425 euros in cryptocurrency profits for its operators, underlining both its scale and profitability. This latest scandal raises tough questions. Why does Nigeria continue to struggle in shutting down such operations at their root? Are current policies and enforcement measures? Michael Emeka Nziopara, who has worked with top firms in the United States and Russia, as well as our DW's Nigeria correspondent Chinaza Samuel. Together, they unpack Nigeria's ongoing battle against cybercrime, the loopholes that enable these networks to thrive, and what it will take to turn the tide. I'll start with you, Chinaza. You're our eyes and ears on the ground. There's been a story that has been trending. What happened? Can you fill us more? What exactly happened?
Yes, Josie. So what happened is that what we did here, and the reports we've seen online, is that Microsoft managed to take down over 300 websites linked to this big phishing network called Raccoon 0365. It was being run by a Nigerian developer who actually sold access to the system as a subscription. So what that meant is that people with very little tech knowledge could buy in and launch sophisticated phishing attacks that looked exactly like Microsoft 365 emails and login pages. It's very mind-boggling when I read about it. Now, on the ground, reactions here in Nigeria are a bit mixed. I did speak to people who feel genuinely sad and embarrassed. I say sad and embarrassed because that's also how I feel, or how I felt when I heard that story. Because once again, it's reinforcing an old label that Nigeria is known for, a place where people are scammed, and most people coming to Nigeria are always on guard because you can easily get scammed. So that's the sad part about. It's so sad, but It's so sad, but that's not the true situation of things. And then there are others who are very defensive, saying this does not represent who we are. And I'm one of those who are saying this is not who we are. This is not how Nigerians are. And because just a small group of people did something wrong, it doesn't mean it's the whole country. I mean, Nigeria is a population of over 250 million. So it's not fair to judge Nigeria from that lens. But then there's also concern about how this plays out internationally, because every time news or stories like this make headlines, it becomes harder for Nigerians to do business abroad.
Let me turn to you, Michael. You are a cyber security engineer. Can you explain exactly how phishing operations like this work?
Okay, so how they work. So the objective for it, like if I'm to explain that, let me just give you the objective of phishing. So the objective of phishing is account takeover. More like you want to own somebody's account, you understand? So for instance, if you want to log into a platform, you need to verify that you are the person that is logging in. That is why they have authentication systems. Authentication systems can be implemented using, let's say, username and password. So that system is put in place to verify that you are who you claim you are. That's basically what it is. You understand? So phishing campaigns or phishing activities are run for compromise of those kind of systems. So somebody would come and impersonate you and get your credentials, or maybe use your credentials. So what this guy is potentially doing is he goes around, he has, let's say, legitimate companies. He could have, let's say, Microsoft 365. He has like a legitimate way of presenting himself in people's email. So you come to their email, he puts up, let's say, an advert or something into their email, and then asks them to click a particular link. And then when they click a particular link, it sends them to like a login portal of their Microsoft 365, while he would be at the back waiting for them to put in their username and their password. So when they put in their username and their password, he'll be able to get or sniff that detail from them. So when he takes that detail from them, he would then use that to compromise their account. You understand? And you know, it's digital space. When you impersonate somebody, you're assumed to be that person. So you also possess the person's influence. It's called identity theft to an extent. So you possess the person's influence. You can actually do what the person is supposed to do and the rest of them. So you compromise systems from there. So basically what the guy is doing is he shrunk because there are a lot of technicalities that goes into that. So he created a platform where even if you are not, let's say, very tech savvy and you just want to do something like that, or you want to achieve something like that, he already has a system that he could just sell to you, and then you just use his service to get what you want to get. You understand? So yeah, that's basically what the phishing. So it's like a toolkit, from what I understand about Raccoon 0365. It's a toolkit that he gives to people based on subscription to carry out phishing services, basically.
Now, Chinaza, I know that we've spoken at length in terms of how certain Nigerians, are affecting the country. But just looking at the country itself having certain notoriety for cybercrime, how does this then affect its citizens? Speaking of not you, not Emeka, just an ordinary Nigerian sitting maybe in Makoko there.
The truth is that it affects everyone, literally everyone, and it's very real in different ways. For example, freelancers who are just trying to get paid for an honest work they've done could have their payments delayed or blocked because Nigeria is flagged as high risk. You have businesses struggling with extra checks from foreign partners. Even something as simple as opening an international bank account or sending an email from Nigeria, from a Nigerian domain, can raise suspicion. It's as simple as that. So while the headlines usually focus on foreigners who get scammed, the truth is that Nigerians themselves are living with stigma, and we live in a digital economy where trust is everything. Once that trust becomes a heavy burden, and it doesn't matter who is on the receiving end of it. One thing that people often forget is that Nigerians themselves are victims of scams. we get hit with, you have fake bank alerts, you have fraudulent job offers, romance scam. It happens here every day to Nigerians. So Nigerians are not just the perpetrators. We are also on the receiving end of it. I may not have been a victim of a fake bank alert or a fraudulent job, but I know people who have been. I've done stories of people who have been who have experienced fraudulent job offers and romance scams and things like that. So it shows you that, to be honest, Nigerians are not against the world. It's criminals against everyone, including their own people. And even back home here, people are victims too. So it's not just foreigners who are getting scammed. And cybercrime is not unique to Nigeria. The US, Russia, China, even Eastern Europe, all these places have cybercrime hubs too.
Yeah, and to add to that, like amongst what she has said, when it comes to cybercrime, if you look at the impact that is being done over there, like in other parts, it's actually more profound compared to, let's say, here in Nigeria. I'm not trying to justify the cybercrime in any way, but like I said, it's just maybe some things that kind of happens.
Right. Now, Chinaza, still with you as a journalist, do you feel like this is a lack of awareness, or it's about Nigerians, those Nigerians who fall victim to this, wanting to get rich quickly, or just lack of knowledge?
Well, desperation is a leading factor. And yeah, there are people who want to get rich quickly, so they would do almost anything. It has become a way of life for some people. So yes, there is people are very well aware. I think if you're here long enough, you might be able to tell when something is fishy, when a job offer is fake, when you just will know somehow. I think it's a Nigerian thing. I don't know. But I feel like people where you have banks send out notice to say, oh, we would never do this, we would never do that, we would never, banks are tightening security. People just know somehow, but then there are people who are also ignorant of these scams, and they are the ones who fall victims.
And Emeka, I mean, you're a cybersecurity engineer. Do you feel like Nigeria is doing enough to address this issue?
Yeah, that's like a drawback from our end. So the last time I checked, I went through some of the Cybercrime Act that has been amended. I think it was amended last year in 2024. So they have like some amended acts for most of these criminal offense. They are making waves to curb these problems. But some of the challenges I feel like we face in this part of the world is implementation of all these things. You understand? So when it comes to some of the solutions that could be recommended is the proper education, because it's not really everyone that is quite maybe diverse in the understanding of how these things work. So by the time those education or people are educated in these procedures, they'll be able to curb some of those challenges that is being faced. Yeah, so I think the government or the people, they are making ways to make this thing happen, but it's not moving as fast as it would, let's say, in the West. Because I've also I've worked people from there. I see how fast they move. I see how very, very critical they are in terms of handling their systems. Fast as the world is, you understand?
Not as fast. So what are some of those steps do you think Nigeria can take to dismantle these networks?
So the first thing is awareness, like educating people, letting people know more about this. You understand? I recently was speaking. I was telling some people that they should be mindful of using Windows 10. Like Windows 10 from next month would not be getting support from Microsoft. So that actually means that they are going to set some attacks. So that's like some awareness that I could create for people. So one way to go for it is getting people to be aware about these things, more aware about some of the cyber incidents. Then maybe putting in measures, let's say technical measures that could help them cope these things. So even though they are not maybe entirely aware about it, they would have like systems that can actually help them in some sense. But the principal thing is awareness. Awareness. And we're trying. We have like some months. I think cybersecurity month is in October. We usually have like that awareness we created in Nigeria, but I think we need to maybe go further in that regard. Yeah.
All right. And Chinasa, I mean, you're a journalist. We are journalists. Do you feel like the media, local media in Nigeria, is doing enough to bring awareness? Because Emeka here is our analyst, is saying that awareness is lacking. So do you feel like that gap could be filled way better than now in the country?
Yes, definitely. The media can do more and should do more. It feels like we're playing catch up compared to what many others are doing. I would commend authorities here, authorities like the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC. We see them every now and then carry out raids. We know there's a cybercrime act, and we've seen Nigeria deport foreigners who were caught in online fraud schemes. So the media needs to do more and amplify those kind of stories. Banks and telecoms also do awareness campaigns trying to teach people how to spot scams. I think those should be amplified. They should do more, and the media should support things like that. But the reality is that it's not enough. Part of what Emeka said is that prosecution take too long, conviction rates are slow, law enforcement sometimes lack resources to keep up with how fast these cyber crimes are, because these things happen really fast, and sometimes evidence is hard to gather, even especially across borders. So corruption doesn't help either, because somebody would take a bribe and turn the other eye to something.
I don't know if Emeka, you want to add something to this, but also, I mean, lack of employment could be another reason why people fall into this. But what can individuals do then to protect themselves from these online scams? Especially when someone is looking for a job, you might think maybe this opportunity should not pass me. Let me just try. What if it's true? What if it's not?
Yeah, like what I usually tell people is whenever you're online, you should have like a minute sense of skepticism. Like we as cybersecurity engineers, we are skeptical people by nature. You understand? If it's too good to be true, then it's not true. You understand? So like have that sense of, sometimes those phishing attacks come based off the person understanding that, you need this, or this is actually what you desire at that time. So they kind of maybe project or put something and then give it to you, because that's like a very strong tendency that you're going to click. You understand? So I'm trying to maybe just like look at it from a perceptional level, like this is the innate things that we should have. I don't want to talk about technical stuff. Like first thing, once you're on the internet, be skeptical. Don't just jump into anything first, and verify anything you see, because that's also like that's like a good start. Then some other things you could do to help yourself, although there could be a lot of technicalities. Have an antivirus in the system, have like anti-phishing measures implemented in your computer and your phone and all this kind of thing. Use two-factor authentication. Some things you can also do is using passkeys. I know like passkeys is going to be quite technical, but you can use passkeys to avoid using passwords, because passwords are usually weak. Like weak.
Using our initials and birthdays.
Yeah. Because we're not really creative when it comes to making passwords. Like for instance, if you're using Google Chrome usually suggests passwords to people. So use those kind of features, those password suggestion suggestions from Google Chrome. Just because we're not creative, most people use their date of birth, use their name, and all those kind of things. So yeah, that's a way you can actually help you.
Right. And Chinaza, there's a question that someone I was talking to, I told them I was going to have this podcast discussion, and they said I should ask this question. It looks like scams is not really online in Nigeria. This particular person said I should ask both of you the way churches themselves are rampant in your country, and these pastors are actually scamming people daylight. I know, Emeka, you're a cybersecurity engineer, but what about that? I mean, daylight robbery. People using the name of God.
Let me contribute to that. So the reason why scams or any of these things exist is because of our innate ability to trust people. Like we are human beings. We are built to trust people. You understand? So irrespective of maybe anything we go through, we have to trust people. So the idea that somebody can scam you, the person has to maybe first of all gain your trust. You get me? So those things happen because somebody's a higher place of authority, and we need to trust them. You understand? I'm able to give you solution and all those kind of things. And it's not like it's unique to Nigeria.
But I've been to Nigeria. Every 2 meters there's a church. Every 2 meters there's a church. So come on.
Okay, okay, Chinaza, go for it.
No, I was just going to say that Nigeria is a very religious country, so we cannot take that away from Nigeria. And it's true, if we want to be honest with ourselves, it's true there are churches, and it's not just in Nigeria, where even globally, where leaders exploit members financially. We've seen cases where people are pressured to give beyond their means, or where there's flashy prosperity preaching becomes wealth becomes more than faith, and that happens. Nigerians criticize it very loudly, but it's important also not to lump all churches together. Nigeria has thousands of churches, and some genuinely serve their communities. But when you link it with fraud, it's bad when a religious place glorifies wealth and without questioning a source of people's income. And it's worse when it's pastors themselves that are doing this to people. But Nigeria is a very religious country, and giving and things like that, you almost cannot separate it. But yes, it comes from our inner desires to trust people and believe whatever they say. And that's why people would give willingly to their pastors and to people and things like that. It happens. It's the reality on ground.
Right. Yes. Okay. As we wrap up our discussion now, Chinaza, what do you think local authorities need to do right now? I mean, to combat these crimes, and definitely, obviously, as we spoke before, prosecute offenders in time.
As we wrap up, I find stories like this. I particularly don't enjoy coming on the podcast to try and defend Nigeria or try and justify something people have done. It's not happy. I find stories like this sad and embarrassing because it's not who we are as Nigerians. Yes, there are criminals, but the vast majority of the people here are hardworking. They are creative. They are trying to make an honest living. So the danger is that when cases like this make the news, it becomes the face of Nigeria, and it takes years to clean up. I don't even know when we're ever going to clean this up, and anyone who is coming into Nigeria is not on guard, trying to be careful, because you could easily get scammed. That's why I believe that it's not just about arrests. So yes, law enforcement has to be stronger. We need real opportunities for people. And then Nigeria really has to invest in digital literacy and be deliberate about rebuilding trust. Until we get this right, then these things are things that will keep reoccurring. In the next few months, I dare say that we would have something like this come up again, and we'll be back on the news to discuss it and discuss how Nigeria is in the news once again for scamming people. And it's just bad.
Oh, we'll be in the news, like you'll be in the news again for good things as well, Chinaza. But Emeka, also your parting words in terms of what measures companies should implement, and even governments, to safeguard their sensitive information from cyber criminals.
Okay, so the measures they could implement, they should audit their current security posture, more like audit most of the infrastructures that they have in place, like audit it, try to check if there are any security loopholes and all this kind of stuff, because those things can also be some of the problems. And like I said, the weakest link in every security incident is human beings. Like humans, we are the weakest link. You understand? So since you are the weakest link, you really need to take your time to build the capacity of those humans. And irrespective of how much you build them, though, they will still be susceptible to attacks because we can still trust people. But like I said, educate them, create like a very strong sense of awareness in the organization. And that's from a very fundamental level. And you and me, just on our own side, we could just study things around security, like try to learn how to be ethical or safe in the internet, because the internet is really wild.
Michael Emekanziopara, a cybersecurity engineer in DW's Nigeria correspondent Chinaza Samuel, many thanks for joining us. Cybercrime in Nigeria is not just about stolen passwords or hacked accounts. It's about shattered lives. Microsoft's seizure of 338 phishing websites tied to a Nigerian-based service exposed a scheme that stole thousands of identities and over $100,000 in crypto. Beyond the numbers are the victims, people drained of their savings, trust destroyed, and in some tragic cases, women driven to suicide after losing everything in online love scams. The question is urgent. Will Nigeria finally get serious about fighting this crisis, or will the human toll keep rising? Well, food for thought. That's it for this edition of Africa Link. Remember, you are not just a listener, but a crucial part of our community, and your engagement can shape the direction of our discussions. We value your insights and encourage you to share your thoughts with us. Remember, you can find all of the Africa Link podcast episodes on Spotify and Apple, or wherever you listen to your podcasts from. This episode was co-produced and edited by Isaac Kelechi. My name is Josephine Mahachi. Thanks for listening. Until the next one, it's bye for now.
DW, made for mind.